for someone who is on antihistamines, and in this part of the country, so many of us are allergic to the various pollens in the air, antihistamines might show up as cocaine on a urine test. Respond to the, I mean, it scares you. It really does.
Okay. Yeah, that's it's certainly a possibility in any kind of drug testing that you could have, or any kind of testing that you could have interference from some substance other than what you're trying to detect. It's the laboratory professional's job to minimize that kind of interference and to recognize them when they do exist. In the case of drug testing, many interferences have now been identified, so we're aware of those things, and steps are then made to compensate for them.
Dr. Bowling, the test that they're talking about is making mandatory for city workers, state workers, federal government employees. Are these tests accurate, or do you have that degree of error in these tests? They are accurate tests. The methods that are employed for screening now have been tested and tried over a period of at least 20 years. And many of the problems have been worked out. We've gotten to the point now where we can very specifically say that something is present most of the time. In the first test, or after subsequent testing? The screening tests, the first testing that we would do, now are very reliable. There will be occasional instances, as you're aware, where the first test will be wrong, but that's a very infrequent problem. But just because of that problem, it's recommended that when we do get a positive, that we follow that up with some other method, because when you change methods for testing, then the interferences change. Okay. Is there one test that is totally accurate? Yes, there's a reference methodology for most tests. In the case of drug testing, the ultimate test to take to court in the case of a legal case or something like that is a method called gas chromatography with mass spectroscopy. How expensive is this? It sounds horribly expensive. The instrument itself is very expensive. Once you have to go to that, there aren't very many in the country, but there are reference centers that offer that service, so that if we have a positive test by one of the screening methods, then the specimen can be referred and tested. And once the center has the instrument, the testing is not that expensive. And of course, the specimens that are going to be referred for that kind of testing are few. It concerns me, though, that the preliminary screening test, although they're somewhat accurate, there's a chance of error. And when you're talking about drugs, a person's reputation can be damaged beyond repair. You know, you hear about that positive, and you just assume that they're on drugs, and yet that final test, the final conclusive test is submissible in court, might prove indeed that they're not, that it is some other element. Is there a chance that in the near future that this test would be available as the first test? Well, no, that's overkill. You see, the idea is that we maintain confidentiality of the initial specimens, that when we do detect a positive, then it should be confirmed by some alternative method before it's reported as positive. Of course, so the lab itself would send the test on? That would be the ideal, yes. Okay. Those hopefully the system works properly, right, then, right? Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. And what is this final test for our viewers? Well, the GC mass spec, for most would be the ultimate test. For some substances, there might be some other method, liquid chromatography or some other form of gas chromatography. And you don't have any degree of error in these tests? The substance, once you've narrowed it down to that point where you know what you're looking for, then the identification is very specific. Okay. I want to thank you for joining us today. I think it's important for us to be aware of exactly what's happening when we're being tested for drugs. Keep abreast of the latest developments in this area.